Okay, in this video, I just want to discuss certain things related to the discussion sections for Math 112 this spring. So um, I've already mentioned in my intro video that I'm going to be presenting asynchronous lectures. Um, so these videos you will watch in advance of the discussion sections, but each of you is enrolled in a discussion section with a discussion instructor. And there are certain expectations that we have related to those discussions. So first off, I want to discuss the purpose. Um, so with the asynchronous lectures, some positive aspects are the fact that you can control the speed of the video, you can rewatch it, you can rewind and go back. But of course, what those lack is the opportunity for you to ask questions in real time. So you would have to watch the video. Of course, you can still ask a question on Piazza or email me, but it typically is not quite the same thing as being able to interrupt and ask a question in the middle of an example. That's something you're going to get from the discussion sections. So those sections are going to start off with your instructor leading you through an example or several examples with the hope that you will stop and ask questions, and also that it will reiterate what was seen in the lecture videos. The more examples you see, the better. The other nice thing about it is that you're going to have lots of people that you can ask for help. Each discussion section not only has the instructor, but also two TAs. So when you're placed into breakout rooms for group work, which I'll discuss in a moment, you'll have the discussion instructor and your two TAs circulating around to answer questions and to help you. And I also intend to visit the discussion sections periodically so that I can circulate around and answer questions as well. So as I noted before, a large portion of each discussion will be devoted to group work. And I think I just wanted to discuss a little bit about why I think this is so important. I think often people aren't used to doing group work with math, but it really provides a lot of benefits. For one, these are other people you can seek help from. So sometimes it could be that the first questions you have, you ask your peers, and then if everybody's confused or that answer isn't satisfying, then you can seek out a TA or your instructor. You'll also have the opportunity to try and explain your thoughts and your understanding of the material to someone else. And this is often an overlooked benefit. One of the best ways to learn is to try and teach something to someone else. With that, you can see how well you do understand the material, and if there are any gaps in that understanding, that often comes out when you're trying to explain it. And um, also, I would say in these times where we have this remote course, one of the things that I really like about the group work is that it provides you with the opportunity to get to know some of your peers. So I hope in some sense that'll make the class a little bit more fun rather than just having to watch videos that are recorded. Really getting to talk with other people and hopefully make some friends in the class and meet as many people as this will allow you to do. But because of the importance of this group work, I do have a list of expectations or norms that I expect from each student enrolled in this class. And I thought it best if we talk about those before the semester gets started so that there is not any confusion. So to begin with, for the discussion sections, attendance is mandatory. If you don't show up, obviously that's going to have a negative effect on your group. So one thing I want to be clear about is you'll note that you have, for each discussion, you have a worksheet that you will submit as a group. If you skip your discussion section, you may not turn that in individually. So I've had in the past that people think they can just submit individual work. This is a group submission. So if you skip discussion, then you will get a 0 on the associated worksheet. Of course, the caveat there is that if you have an excused absence, you contract COVID, you have some incapacitating illness, or you speak with your instructor in advance, then we together will provide a makeup work opportunity. So be prepared. Of course, that's a little vague, but one of the graded components for this course is lecture quizzes. And these are intended to just test your knowledge of the lecture videos. And there are 10 questions. If you've watched the videos, I would expect they take maybe 10 minutes, but typically you'll have 5 days or so to complete them. And what I really want to stress here is that you have to complete the quiz before your discussion section starts. Last semester, there was some confusion about the Gradescope deadlines. So keep in mind that all 9 sections are submitting to the same Gradescope. So I have to set the lecture quiz deadlines to reflect the last discussion section. So I leave that window open. So the first discussion of the week would say be at Monday at 8:30. You might see that the Gradescope deadline is Tuesday evening because I have to allow for the Tuesday discussion sections to submit them. But if your discussion meets at Monday at 8:30, then your lecture quiz is due by Monday at 8:30. Gradescope will log the time that you last opened the quiz and last submitted it. So even if it doesn't say late on Gradescope, if I have a Monday 8:30 discussion and I submit mine after that time, it will be counted as late. So we check the timestamp on that. The other thing to think about with that is that it only logs the last time you opened the quiz. So once your discussion starts, don't go back and open it, even if your intent is simply to just check your answers without changing anything, because that will register as late as well. Once they've been graded, you will be able to look back at what you put. You'll be able to see what if you missed something. So just keep that in mind. But I'll also point out, like I said, typically those will be available maybe 5 days before discussion starts. You can open it 5 days in advance and keep it open and continue to work on it up until your discussion. There's no kind of hard time on that. You can submit it and then go back and open it before your discussion, change some answers and resubmit it. All of these things are acceptable, but you just want to be aware of that kind of deadline about your discussion. So again, why is that deadline there? Because I want you to be prepared for your own discussion and prepared to contribute to the work with your group members. And that is there as an assurance that you've watched these lecture videos. So the next thing I have here is that I want everybody to have their cameras on. So I surveyed the students that I had last semester asking what would make the group work better. And the most common suggestion I got was to have cameras on. Now, to be clear, I'm specifically talking here about the group work component when you're in the breakout rooms, not necessarily when you are in discussion watching your instructor go through the examples. So it is really hard to have good communication if you're in a breakout room with 4 people and everybody's got a black screen there. And that also makes it difficult for the TAs and the instructor to come in and help you, and not being able to see faces and register how your understanding and explanation is difficult. So I would like everybody to have those cameras on. And again, what I want to point out here is that if you are in a situation where you really can't have your camera on, please do email me. I want to be completely sensitive to that. In particular, I know that some students might not even be on campus. Maybe you're taking the course at home, wherever that may be. And there could be lots of reasons why you don't want to have your camera on. Just if that's the case, just reach out to me and let me know. So perhaps this should have been the first slide on expectations, but I really hope that you'll treat your peers with respect. I don't ever want to hear anything about somebody making someone else feel stupid. There's a difference between being prepared, right? So I want everybody to come in prepared, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to know how to do everything. So it's okay to struggle. And that's what you guys are there to help one another. So think about how can I be as helpful as possible? And not just helping other people, but like I said, be open to getting explanations from your peers and listening to what they have to say, and have a respectful conversation. Always keep that at the forefront. And what I want to emphasize here is that I hope that the discussion section can be kind of a fun side of this course. If you have good attendance and you're putting in the effort, I expect that your grade on the discussion worksheets should be quite good. So I hope that this won't be a stressful component of the course, but I do feel that you will get something out of it if you put into it exactly what I'm laying out here. So work together, right? It's called group work. So some things that I don't want to see or hear reports about is individuals working on the worksheet in advance. Now, if you want to kind of look at it and maybe you're worried that your pace is slower, that's fine. What I don't want is somebody's completed the worksheet and then you get in the group and they tell everybody, oh, I've already done the worksheet, right? That defeats the purpose of discussion. So you should really be working on this at a reasonable pace together. It's not a race. The other thing about that is don't divide the worksheet up and have one person do question one do question two, et cetera. That again defeats the purpose. And students last semester said that the work went quicker when we didn't try to chop up the worksheet. So work on it, go through it together at the same time. Maybe you have to pause and think about it on your own, but discuss it kind of together as you proceed through the worksheet. So a little bit, your instructor will tell you a little bit more about this, but generally with these groups, you're gonna have 3 or 4 members in your group. And again, based off of student recommendation last semester, we are going to keep the same groups for 4 discussions, so roughly every 2 weeks. And this was suggested by students because this will now allow every person in the group to be responsible for submitting one of those worksheets. Um, so that way there's no one person who has to have the burden of submitting a bunch of worksheets, which unfortunately I found out happened last semester. In order to make sure that that's clear, your instructor will give you some kind of scheme for deciding that. Maybe it's going to be in alphabetical order or from youngest to oldest about who in your group will submit the first one, the second one, etc. And again, you're going to be turning in all graded work on Gradescope. I do want to emphasize that worksheets are going to be group submissions. So unlike the other aspects of this course, when you go to submit a worksheet, a discussion worksheet, you will see that you can add the names of the people in your group. And it can be as simple as you start typing the first name and it should pull up a drop-down menu. You want to know their last name as well, because there might, for instance, be several Sarahs. But you want to make sure that you add all of them into the submission. And this then makes it so that they get credit for it, but also that they can access the group work when they log into their own Gradescope account. My hope is that most of the worksheets, you find that you can more or less finish them by the end of discussion. I really think it won't be that common for people to finish real early, but of course, there are different paces that groups might work at. But do be prepared that you might have a little bit left over. And so with that in mind, you want to make sure that you have the contact information for everybody in the group so that you can follow up. If it's not feasible for you to actually get together in a Zoom link or anything like that, at a minimum, you can each finish the problem or problems that you didn't get to, and then discuss your answers to compare. But you want to make sure that you keep in mind the deadline. And so for every discussion worksheet, it will be due by 11 p.m., 3 days after your discussion. So again, notice that that means that there are different deadlines for people who have Monday, Wednesday discussions rather than Tuesday, Thursday. So ignore the Gradescope deadline. Monday, Wednesday discussions, you'll see that you're 3 days later. That means that they would be due Thursday and Saturday at 11 p.m., whereas the Tuesday, Thursday discussions are due 3 days later, Friday and Sunday. In my experience last semester, most people did not have trouble getting them in by then. And I would say most of the worksheets were submitted often the same day that discussion was held, but just keep that in mind. And then this last slide here, I just want to be clear, all of these expectations, I'm going to have a PDF so that you can refresh and access these. But if you don't abide by these, you will be penalized with your grade. So in terms of trying to earn the S in the course, right, you want to make sure that you are really putting in all of your effort. One thing that did happen last semester is that there were some students who were frustrated by lack of participation of certain group members. And the only way we would know about that is if a student felt comfortable emailing somebody. So to try to facilitate that, I've got an optional group work feedback form. I didn't want to task you with having to fill that out after every single meeting. There will be a link to it on the website, and you can then just fill that out if somebody is not participating, or maybe you're trying to reach out after this discussion to finish it and that person's not responding. And so that's a way to let me and the discussion instructors be aware of those issues. And that's going to be really important. So keep that in mind. Also, I'll point out you're going to have these set groups, but if you meet on your second day and one of the group members isn't there, don't include them on that worksheet. So keep in mind, we have a track of attendance. So we'll note if you put somebody's name on there that shouldn't be on there. And again, just to reiterate, this last slide sounds a little heavy with consequences, but I do want to end it just to point out again that I expect for almost everybody, hopefully everybody, that these consequences won't come about. I think discussion will be a really good time for some rich interactions, and an opportunity for you to really take advantage of getting help, but just getting to interact and know other people, which is something that I really want to try to foster in this time of this remote learning that we have here. And again, that's part of the reason that I'm going to visit the discussion sections, because I'm going to miss that interaction that I normally have in lecture. So I look forward to the opportunity to circulate through those breakout rooms and get to engage with you all as you're working through the group problems.